Hey, so I've got a little bit of time. I'm heading out to Nightmare Weekend Chicago tomorrow, and I've been working on a little piece for fun that I'm going to be offering for sale, and I'm going to try to get some posters made tonight just here on my home Canon printer for this alien piece. But I figured since I've got some time and I'm here and I've got my whole setup ready to photograph and reproduce the final artwork for this, that I would do a quick little tutorial on how I do that reproduction because I was never like growing up, like going up through college. For years and years, I've struggled with getting good reproductions of my work and was never given like good, clear instruction, in undergrad or at any time on how to get a really good reproduction outside of sending my artwork off to a professional photographer to have it done, which would cost, over $100 per piece and also take, upwards of 2 weeks, which doesn't work when you're on deadline. So I abandoned scanners a long time ago. And what I use now is a photography setup. So what I'm going to show you, it's not a cheap setup, but I've basically worked this out over the past probably like 5 years, and now I get almost perfect reproductions of my original artwork with almost no post production like in Photoshop necessary to, adjust the color or anything like that. So I'll show you what I do. So here you can see this is my studio. Welcome to my studio. It's very messy right now because I'm getting ready to go to Chicago tomorrow. But over here is where I have my drafting table. And so you can see I have my camera set up on a tripod. I do need to get a better tripod. I'm using some construction wobbly things. So one of the things I have to make sure that I do is always film using the self timer. 2 seconds usually works for that. But then I have my lights set up, and then I have my artwork, they're pinned to my drafting table. And I invested in a nice sit stand drafting table a couple years ago. I think I got this on Amazon. It was like $500 or something. It works great. There's only a few of these out there. The other options are really expensive, but what I like about it is you can tilt the desk up to a perfect 90-degree angle, and it has a motor drive, so you can raise and lower it with just some buttons and like pre-program it and stuff. So that's where I draw, but it's also where I photograph. So let me sit this tripod down because it's making my arm tired. And I will step into shot and show you what I'm working with. So I shoot on a Fujifilm. It's a what is it, TX4 or XT4? I can never remember. XT4. And I got this a few years ago. I got this, I think, refurbished too, so I didn't pay full price for that. But this is what I shoot all my photo reference on. So it's a really nice camera, DSLR, and then it also works great for shooting my original artwork. And I would imagine that you could do the same thing on a much lower tech camera as well. But it's really nice to have a great camera for this. So I shoot on that, and then I've got my two LED panel lights. They could be brighter because if they were brighter, I could get them farther back and expose with a broader light, even with maybe like putting soft boxes onto it. But it's a real pain in the ass to like set up and take this stuff down all the time. So I try to keep it as simple as possible. One of the things that's really important when you are photographing your your work, and if you're doing like pen and ink drawings, like this isn't necessary, you can just scan it. But for paintings, it's a completely different thing because you're dealing with a surface, especially if you're painting in oils or acrylics, where the texture of the surface has different sheens, and it's actually got texture, so it's catching the light from different angles as it comes in. So the more that you can diffuse that light and scatter it, the better. But you always want two lights set up, and in order to eliminate or as much as possible eliminate any glare whatsoever on your painting, you got to use polarizing filters and films. So on my camera right now, I don't want to touch this because I have it set up just right to frame the image. But I have a polarizing filter on my camera. And then I have polarizing films on my panel lights. So I have a little piece of plexi that I just tape on front, and adhered to that plexi is a polarizing film. And you can buy these online. I got them on Amazon. They come in like 8.5 by 11 sheets. And you just cut it down, and they're self-adhering. So you just lay it down. And so each one of these panel lights has this this polarizing film. And the reason that you need it on your light source is because the polarizing lens in your camera won't work without it. Polarizing lenses are made to shoot or to reduce reflections outdoors for like landscape photography and portraiture and whatever. And you're working with a natural light source of the sun typically for that, and which is why it works. But if you're working inside of a studio setting, that thing's not going to work unless you have polarizing lenses on your light source. And I think that's because the sun is polarized light. I don't know. That's probably wrong. But at any rate, this is just what I know that you have to have. And when you set your lights up, those light sources need to be at a 45-degree angle to the lens and to the surface. So, which is why I have them set up like this. You also want them level with your focal point. So this one over here probably needs to come up just a bit to right about there. And now that's ready. Also, because these are not the brightest things, I have to get them like straight in. Like I said, I have larger strobes that I use to shoot my photo reference, but they are on these like metal gimbals stands, and they're called C stands, and they wouldn't fit back here. It would require probably like an hour or more of setup and takedown. So this is fine, and with the polarizing lens, it works just perfectly. So from here, then I can dial in my settings, and I shoot on the lowest ISO possible, 160. And then from there, I just dial in my shutter speed. And that's usually, I think my shutter speed is set at like 1/4 of a second right now, which is why it has to have self-timer set up, because I can't touch it, otherwise it would blur. And then the other thing too is in terms of your aperture, which determines your field of focus. I try not to go ever below 8. I think I have it set right now at 11, which is good, and that should give me good clarity in the image all the way around. And I'm shooting just an 11 by 17. The larger your artwork gets, the more you want your aperture to close in. I'm trying to think what else, if there's any other important details here. Oh, the other thing that I do is when I'm shooting, you probably won't be able to see this, but if I open up the little viewfinder lens over here, turn the camera on, down here you can see these little peaks and valleys. That's the histogram. So I always shoot with that histogram on, because that's going to tell you how much detail you're getting throughout your color, your value range. So on one side, I think this side over here is your darks on your left, and then on your right, I believe, are your lights. I could be switching those up. It doesn't really matter, as long as that histogram creates a mountain and peak formation in the middle of its range, and you don't see any of the lines going all the way up to the top of the little box in which it sits. At any place within that, you've got good detail. You're not blowing your whites out, your highlights out, and you're not condensing your blacks and losing detail in the shadows. So the only other thing that I do is, on the Fujifilm, it has this nice HDR setting, which is high dynamic range, and it works really well on the Fuji. And that basically just brackets the photograph. So it creates 3 snapshots of it. One at the settings that you have the camera set up at, and then one at overexposure and one at underexposure, and then it merges the 3 to create a unified image. And I'll shoot that, and if I like the way that looks, I'll stick with it. I can always switch to standard and just go straight off the settings that I have. So I think that's it. Oh, and then in terms of my file format, I shoot just straight RAW. And a RAW file is basically just it's the image as it is being perceived by the sensor data in the camera without any in-camera adjustments of any kind, which would be like, you know, increasing the temperature value or color scale or any of these film simulations that these fancy cameras have. But yeah, from here, then I'll just go in, make sure that I have my self timer set, and 2 seconds is typically enough. And I'm all lined up, take the shot, which I don't think it did. You're taking a shot. Let's try that again. There it goes. There it goes. And should be done. And then I'll take it over there, put it into Lightroom, which is what I use to format all of this stuff. And if it looks good, I'll keep it. And typically I don't have to go back and forth very much, but if it looks overexposed, I'll come back, or underexposed, I'll come back, take a couple more shots. Sometimes I'll even just go ahead and take a couple shots at different shutter speeds to have them. And then I'll be good to go. So yeah, that's how I shoot my my images. And if you want to get a closer look at the piece itself, which will also be posted in this, it's got glare on it right now, obviously because of the lights, but this will be available this weekend at Chicago Nightmare Weekend. And I'm going to have some posters of it too. So if you're there, come see me.